about you guys, but I'll never get tired of that.
No, it's elite. But the question is, does Brandon know what we're saying right now, or do we have to wait 15 or 30 seconds?
No, you're talking about the intro. That's the best thing of all time.
Oh, my elite connection. Just sounded like a robot.
Things will get better. Sorry about the
It will
tardiness.
fix itself.
We were dealing with some internet problems that might have fixed themselves, might not have. Well, I guess we're going to find out together.
Maybe. Jack likes the dramatic countdown.
It's probably one of the better intros that you'll ever see on a YouTube live stream.
If we don't have a top 4 class or a top 3 class, sorry.
You guys want to mess that up with the
Oh my. Top 3 class, Brandon and I are gonna have to do a intro, a recruiting video for the Space Force.
Yep.
I think it's gonna mess up the flow of our great intro.
God.
Oh my.
All right. We'll bring him back momentarily. We're going to have to figure this out. But
He's putting
let's
time out.
Yeah, we're just going to put him in timeout for a second, see if his internet will catch up. Luckily, I'm pretty sure he can still hear us, so he'll be up to date when he comes back. I mean, a lot of things happened in the last couple of days. July 32nd got kicked off. Was a little bit of a surprise here for recruiting. You want to start there, Brum? You want to start with yesterday or today?
I say we start with yesterday. Just starting in chronological order. Obviously, we released a video on Michael Patterson McDonald. We've talked about the way, what he can provide with the team and things like that. But, landing him, it does not suck, that's for sure. Landing him at the end of July, well, what everyone else's end of July is. Ours at Two Plane Sports, it continues into July 32nd and beyond. But getting Michael Patterson McDonald is huge as far as, adding the depth for the safety room, but also there are some bigger implications as far as, can you get a David Stone on board with this 2024 class? It appears that Caden Durham is maybe shifting away, looking elsewhere from Oklahoma, and probably looking at LSU or A&M at this point. But obviously, that's not to say that Patterson McDonald can't maybe influence him later and bring him back into this class. I think he will be, at LSU or Texas A&M, just not at Oklahoma due to the depth. And at the end of the day, you get Taylor Tatum, and it's no big deal. But adding Michael Patterson McDonald was huge. It seemed like it was a kind of formality yesterday as far as an announcement goes. And obviously David Stone gave him some love on social media. And I think it's a big addition, and Brandon Hall and the staff can recruit. And they added another talented kid, and I'm glad we kept an in-state kid that, had offers to go play at Mizzou, I think Indiana, UNLV. So, he had some pretty good-sized offers. It's not like Oklahoma is the only one. They just were the first one.
Brandon, do you want to start here?
I can start. Yeah, I just going back to the running back room. You mentioned Taylor Tatum. He's obviously the big fish. If Caden Durham doesn't go, you're still okay with Taylor Tatum being there. But no love for Xavier Robinson, bro.
Well, I'm talking about as far as the highest rated guy. But yeah, Xavier Robinson is great. It's just the depth at that running back room, and that's why I've been saying for the last 3 or 4 weeks that I felt like Caden Durham wasn't going to be in this class, just because it's not a slide against Oklahoma, and there's only so many snaps to go around.
Yeah, no, I feel you. And then with Michael Patterson McDonald, we talked about in the video yesterday, I think he's a guy that, similar to Xavier Robinson, is underrated, because if he puts up those numbers in Texas, he's a 4-star at least, maybe a high 4-star. The dude put up really good numbers. He's not just a relationship with David Stone type recruit, I don't think. That's a narrative that's thrown out there. A lot of people say, would he have been offered if not for, his relationship with David Stone and how close he is? And obviously that doesn't suck. Him being very close with David Stone, it helps in landing the biggest fish of the class for us, maybe outside of Williams Winery, if that goes our way. But the kid can play too. He's got good size for the safety spot. He can tackle, he can hit, he can defend the pass. He had 3 picks and 8 pass breakups last year. The kid can play himself. I think he'll add some really good depth. It's a good start, or it's a good end to a regular July, but now here we are, July 32nd, with some more big targets on the way.
Oh, for sure. And with Michael, we talked about it, but I thought what was good to hear after he committed was that his focus is on continuing this peer-to-peer recruiting, and then he alluded to the fact that the rest of this month is going to be crazy when it comes to finishing off, or not, getting closer to finishing off the 2024 class. So, obviously these guys know way more than any insider or anyone that covers recruiting, because they get to talk to the guys that have already silently committed. They know, for the most part, where people's heads are at, that they are helping recruit. So the fact that you keep hearing a guy like Michael and everyone else that's already committed to this class alluding to the fact that things are going to get even better, I feel like it just makes it easier to believe that Oklahoma will be able to close on the two best defensive linemen in this recruiting class, in Williams Winery and David Stone. And Brandon, you mentioned it, David Stone with the connections with Michael and Jaden Jackson and Xavier Robinson. That it doesn't hurt to have those guys already in this class, and potentially adding a Caden Durham wouldn't suck either. You have the entire friend group from when they were growing up playing college ball together. I'm sure that's something they'd love to do. But you guys mentioned it. Caden Durham went to an unofficial this weekend, and it seems like LSU, if they didn't fully take the lead, they're at least equal to Oklahoma at this point.
They are, and it's no slight to Oklahoma. It's just the reality of the situation. But I just thought about this, and I know that we were saying this is July 32nd, but it is technically August, and August means that football will be played this month. We are finally here. We've got the Hall of Fame game, an elite game in the NFL on Thursday. I'm sure everyone will tune in and watch all four quarters. I'll at least watch a little bit of it. But just the fact that we made it through, fall camp is starting, and it's just a good feeling that you can say football is back. I know it might be a touch early, but we're like 25 days away from the first college game. So we're right there. I just thought I'd at least throw that in there, that we wait all year for this, and it's finally here.
Would you all rather watch 16? Like, this is all you can do. All right. 16 NFL Hall of Fame games, and that's your football season, or 16 college football spring games. That's all you get for the whole season, is a bunch of spring games or a bunch of Hall of Fame games.
Give me the spring games. It's not even a hard question.
I wouldn't watch. That's my answer. That would be the shittiest thing of all time.
No, you just said you have to watch 16 weeks of football.
That's all you would get for football. You don't have to watch it.
I would watch the Hall of Fame games because there are tons of players that are just trying to make the roster, and they're going to compete like no other. And you're going to have competition.
So they are the roster now.
Yeah, I guess in that scenario they would be, right? Well, it could be 16 Hall of Fame games for all 32 teams, so they each play one game a year.
It'd be like just watching the intros of videos and not the good parts, if you know what I mean.
I mean,
basically. I'll take the spring games, though.
It's less than ideal.
Definitely less than ideal.
Jose looks tired, according to Seabreezy. Have you been sleeping, Jose?
I haven't. I guess I'm way behind on some of these.
They also want you guys both to get a mohawk. I've not been asked to get a mohawk yet. I don't want to get one, but you guys have both been
asked. I'm already going to shave my beard. Why does hair have to come off my body for any bet?
Why can't you do a shaved beard and a mohawk?
That would be a look.
No,
that would be elite.
I'm not even going to come close to agreeing to something that's stupid.
Maybe if we were in college, I'd be willing to do the mohawk, but
yeah. If we didn't have real responsibilities on our
Would you rather have a mohawk or a mullet?
A mullet. No.
I think I'd rather have a mullet.
Back in college, probably would have taken a mohawk. All right. Back to topics.
So many Brandon, why do you have so many pillows?
You never know when you need them.
All right, Jose wants us to get us back.
All right, so the quarterback that committed today, flipped from Northwestern to Oklahoma. I'm not even going to pretend like I remember his name right now, so I'm going to have to look it up. Brendan Zerberg. All right, so it sounds like you may know a little bit more about him than for sure I do. Maybe Brandon. I think it's cool that we did end up getting 2 quarterbacks in this class, because after this upcoming year, like after this season, you'll have Jackson there, and then his backup would be General Booty. Pretty sure he still has eligibility. And then these 2 freshmen, and Mike Hawkins and Zerberg. So it's not a bad idea. And it's the first time since 2009, I think I saw that Oklahoma's taken 2 quarterbacks in one recruiting class.
Yeah, and Brandon, wasn't that 09 class? Didn't we do some sort of deep dive trivia question on who was in that class? Was that Landry Jones, or I can't remember who the 2 quarterbacks were in that class. Anyway, but Zerberg, yeah, you can Google it. Zerberg was once committed to Syracuse month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and then flipped to Northwestern, and then like a month ago flipped to Northwestern, and then got caught in the crosshairs of the whole fallout of the Northwestern football program with those incidents going on. And obviously he, and I don't blame him, was starting to evaluate his, places where he can go and go look at. And he ultimately chose to go play now at this point at Oklahoma. He's a preferred walk-on, I believe. Or did they offer him a scholarship? I can't quite remember. I'm drawing a blank here, but bringing him in, I think he's a preferred walk-on. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but they basically, offered him, basically promised him nothing. And Oklahoma, it seems like this entire time they were going to take 2 quarterbacks in this class no matter what. They were going after the kid who ultimately committed to Cincinnati, who's out of the state of Pennsylvania, I believe. I forget his name. Gosh, I'm just forgetting names. Normally I butcher them, but I'm just forgetting the names. Jose, you're muted. Oh, you're still muted.
It's fucking Mike, man. Samaj
Jones, you're right. And so, they were going to take someone no matter what, and Durbert is that guy. So, I mean, it's always good, but, assuming with DG being there, Jackson Arnold already committed, Kevin Sperry in the 2025 class, and Michael Hawkins in the 24 class, he's going to have to compete. And not to say that he couldn't compete and, earn a spot, the starting spot. It's just the depth and the talent is going to be tremendous at Oklahoma. And, obviously Jeff Levy and Venables wouldn't have lied to him. I mean, and everyone knows that. So he's definitely not scared of a little competition.
All right, Brandon, you're muted as well.
And I don't think you would.
Oh. We're going to have to come back to him because his internet is messing up again. But I agree. There's some people were saying that, this could be, Mike Hawkins might not stick around for whatever reason. I don't believe that to be not even close to the truth, because from the very beginning, Oklahoma seemed to be intent on getting 2 quarterbacks, and Zerberg kind of came in last second because of the situation you talked about with Northwestern and the coach getting fired. So he got that opportunity to, I guess, reopen his recruitment and see what is out there for him. I think this is probably best for Oklahoma, because after Jackson Arnold, assuming Jackson plays 2 years, we would have a gap year between Kevin Sperry, more than likely playing, and Jackson Arnold leaving for the NFL. You got to have someone to fill it in there, and you need to have competition. And this is essentially what will help. Either it's going to be Hawkins or Zerberg leading the team for a year before they move on to Kevin Sperry, who I think has a very good chance of being a top 5 quarterback in the 2025 class. He's someone that when someone asked us last week, a guy that we think could be much higher rated than he is now, I've completely forgot about him, but if anyone, I think Kevin Sperry's going to be making the highest jump.
No, that's fair. And I just want to add, he is a scholarship player. I just was getting confused. Oklahoma with Andy Bass is offering a preferred walk-on with him. I was getting them mixed up. But Brandon, thoughts? Are you there? Can you hear us? Are we all good?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you
Barely.
just sound like a robot.
Talk.
Do I still sound robotic? I'm trying not to be robotic.
You're good now. Go.
I'm good now. Okay. I was just going to say with Zerber, I don't think he would have made the decision to transfer from Northwestern, where he likely would have had a easier path to playing time or less competition, without believing that he could beat out Michael Hawkins. Eventually, I think he has that belief. He thinks that he's probably trying to be the guy after JA, like you mentioned, host. It's going to be one of those two guys, so he's betting on himself. But I think he's going to end up being a depth player. But I mean, Brett Venable said it today at Media Day. He said his job as a coach is to bring in a guy at your position every year to try and beat you out. Just not let it happen. I mean, competition makes everybody better. He's practicing what he preaches here and bringing in 2 quarterbacks. Why not? The more the merrier. Let's see it.
We're going to try to fix your internet, Brandon, because that definitely did not work out. Jacob Matthews, shout out for the support here. Let's answer his questions. So he's got 2 questions. We'll bring Brandon back. Hopefully his internet starts to catch up with us in a second. Who's gonna be the surprise standout on the team this year? And who's a big recruit that OU could flip? Love the show, fellas.
So, surprise standout on the team this year. For me, I'm thinking it's going to be, I don't know. There's a couple that come to my mind. I think surprise, I think you could see like a Andrew Anthony. I'm going to take Andrew Anthony to be that guy and emerge. I think the wide receiver room, there's a lot of room, there's a lot of talent and a lot of uncertainty. When you look at it, you've got Jalil Farouk, who looks like the clear-cut number 1 guy there. You've got Drake Stoops, the veteran, who is probably the number 2. There's a lot of hype with Gavin Freeman. Gavin Freeman very well could contribute too, but when you look at Andrew Anthony, I believe he's 6'2", 6'3". He's got good size. Being from Michigan, I know he didn't play a ton at Michigan. They're going to be looking for that, that third guy to really kind of emerge, because you're running 3 and 4 receiver packages out there. So I think as far as a surprise go, I would take Andrew Anthony. A big recruit that could flip to Oklahoma that's currently committed elsewhere. I'm trying to think. I'm going to have to think on that, Hose. I'll let you start with the surprise standout on this team while I think about the surprise recruit.
So my standout's going to be DeJoun Terry. I think I said his name right. The entire defensive line, if you listen to Brent Venable's press conference today for Media Day, basically the entire defense is going to have very different personnel outside of Danny Stutzman and Woody Washington. I would assume Billy Bowman as well, but you've got a lot of competition, especially in the front 7. Going to have a whole new group of defensive linemen. Honestly, I wouldn't expect Reggie Grimes or Ethan Downs to be part of the number 1 squad. Probably still in the 2 deep because they're talented enough that they can be useful in rotation. But from the comments Brent Venables had earlier, I wouldn't expect those 2 to be returning as starters. So basically, I'm going to take Terry But anyone on the defensive line, I think, is going to be the standout because that's definitely was OU's weakest point when it came to the defense last year. A recruit that could flip, I'm still going to go with Peyton Pierce. That was a recruitment that OU led in for a long time. And then Laurinaitis came out of nowhere. Or I guess he was there for Notre Dame, and he was a little bit of a threat. But then it went away for a while, and when he got hired to Ohio State, it just ramped up. I guess he really wanted to play for Laurinaitis, and he was good at recruiting him and building that relationship. But it's hard to look at. I get that Laurinaitis is a good coach and has connected well with him, but you got to look at the history of the linebacker position, coached by Brent Venables, and maybe if OU's got a couple spots towards the end, they like really put the pressure on and see if they could flip him sometime in October, November. I don't think it would be anytime soon that you see a big flip. Right now, the coaching staff is more than likely focused on the current guys that they're trying to close on, the big names that aren't committed anywhere, before putting their efforts in flipping a guy that they might want to get back, like a Peyton Pierce or someone they just haven't had on their radar until probably early on in the guy's senior season.
Yeah, and Peyton Pierce is a good suggestion. Obviously, I would love him to be at Oklahoma. It's just going to be hard to get him out of being committed to Ohio State. I'm thinking of a guy, and I couldn't remember his name off the top of my head, but in the 2025 class, I know I don't want to jump ahead, but the 2024, I think as we go through and finish up the month of August, it's mainly going to be solidified, and there might be a few guys that Oklahoma could flip. But the guy that comes to my mind in 2025 that I could flip is Nate Roberts from Washington, Oklahoma. He's currently committed to Notre Dame. He's the number 2 tight end in the class in the 2025 class. Kevin Sperry, I think it was Sperry, posted a picture of him working out with Nate Roberts, and then also another 2025 Waters. Yeah, another Elijah Thomas, another commit. The more that they work out together, the more they hang out together. Signing day is a year and 4 months out, 16 months out at the earliest. I think Oklahoma is going to press him, and Oklahoma is going to take a couple tight end commits. I know that they're working on is it Deshaun Brain from Derby, Kansas? He's a highly rated tight end. So those seem to be their 2 guys. But Nate Roberts committed earlier this summer. I think Oklahoma, is it going to be tomorrow? No. But I think the more that Kevin Sperry does that recruiting, being in the state of Oklahoma, I think he could press Nate Roberts. Brandon, we got a question down here. Are you good now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You sound
so
great.
much better.
I hear you guys loud and clear. I was always hearing you loud and clear. I guess my internet's just not working on the computer, but it's got to be somebody in the receiver room. I want it to be Jaquez Petaway. I keep talking about Jaquez Petaway having some snaps this season. I want him to be that guy. I think he can be that guy. If you want to go with somebody with a little more experience, maybe like an Angelo Anthony type player has a chance to make a play, I think, out there in the receiver room. I think the receiver room just has the most it's the best spot that you can get on the field if you're not already solidified. There's still, I think, some competition there, some legit competition for legit playing time going into the season. So somebody in the receiver room is who I'd go with. I hope it's Jaquez Petaway, or if you want to go experience, I guess we'll go with Anthony, the Michigan transfer.
Any surprise big recruits are committed elsewhere that could flip to Oklahoma that comes to your mind?
Shoot, I don't know. I don't know right now. I'll come back to that one. Who'd you guys say?
I said Nate Roberts, the 2025 number 2 tight end in the class. He's from Washington, Oklahoma. Committed to Notre Dame.
Yeah, fuck Notre Dame.
Brandon, Jose, do you guys have dogs barking?
It's Brandon.
Yeah, somebody had the audacity to walk by our house, on a walk or something, and she likes to freak out. She goes on guard mode until they are out of her sight.
The goal on some people walking in front of the house.
It's crazy. Or if they drive by too. Just there's no activity allowed outside of the house.
I saw some other questions up here earlier. Let me see here. Well, some people did share their thoughts on Davis Bevel. We don't have to reignite that flame, but I think
Oh,
we
no.
all probably agree. Actually, earlier today, I sent this to Brandon, but I saw a post. It was start, bench, cut. And the options were Davis Bevel, Arch Manning, and
Tate Martell.
Tate Martell. I know what my answer is, so if you want me to go first while you think about it.
I think I know who I'd cut, or I think I know.
Okay, what's your answer?
Cut Tate Martell, bench Davis Bevel, start Arch.
And I cut Davis, I benched Tate, and started Arch.
You got to start Tate. Start Tate, bench Davis, cut Arch. We will have no horns on this roster.
I just can't have Tate Martell being a distraction for the team. He's gone.
You're fucked if Arch is out
We'll just
for a
run
game.
We'll just run the Wild Willie with Braden Willis running the Wildcat the entire time.
Well, you can't run that anymore.
Here's one from T-Mac earlier. Favorite player on the roster this year?
Favorite player? I'm going to say Danny Stutzman. I love his position as far as being, the quarterback of the defense, sideline to sideline. He hustles, he tackles, he's got a high motor. I think he's my favorite. I just like the passion he plays with.
Brandon?
I mean, I was gonna say Danny Stutz too. I think he's a guy that's gonna have a big one, but I'll change it up just to be different here. Let's go DG again, just like last year. I think the team can go as far as Dylan Gabriel will take him. That was my take going into the season. Obviously, didn't get to watch the season. It didn't go the way any of us intended or planned or expected it to go. But I think in year two, with some experience under the belt, with some familiarity with the system on both sides, the team should be better as a whole. And I think, again, it's going to go as far as Dylan Gabriel can take us. I think his play is going to be the most important play of anybody on the team. That's usually the case with the quarterback, but I think this team is as good as Dylan Gabriel is.
I'm going to go with Billy Bowman. When he first committed, which is basically when we started the show, whatever it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, a long time ago, it feels like. I called him the next Charles Woodson. Obviously, that hasn't panned out because he hasn't gotten to play on both sides of the ball or played corner, but he's still a very athletic guy. I think last year, when you look at the DBs as a group, you can make an argument that he was the best one or the most important guy to have on the field. In the secondary, I think he's going to be just as important this year. Whoever is paired next to him, or the guy paired next to him, is going to be interesting. I think that other safety position, if it's Reggie Pearson or Peyton Bowen, or even some of the more tenured guys, if you see Akeel Lawrence come in or Justin Harrington, if he gets thrown at the safety position, or even guys from the 2022 group, if Robert Spears-Jennings can come in. You've got so many options there to put alongside Billy. It'll be interesting to see which duo is back there or who he plays with best, like who complements Billy's game the best, so that the defense can maximize their potential this year.
Yeah. And, I don't want to, circle all the way back, but the question that Jacob Matthews posed, another recruit that Oklahoma could flip, I just had a thought. He's not currently committed at this point to Texas A&M, but if Terry Bussey commits to Texas A&M and Texas A&M becomes a train wreck like they typically are, and Jimbo Fisher starts getting a little bit on the hot seat, that is someone I feel like Oklahoma could circle back on and maybe make some noise there. I'm not saying he's committed at this point because he isn't, but it seems like he's trending there and he's crystal balled there. I think if Texas A&M becomes a train wreck, I think Oklahoma circles back on him.
We're still waiting on the flood of Texas A&M defensive linemen to leave, which is still going to happen. Maybe we can flip some of those guys eventually.
I think at this point it might be hard because Jimbo's got the coldest hot seat of all time, given that they can't buy his contract out because his agent is the best agent in sports history. I don't know how they managed to swindle that much money from A&M, That guy's got the best job security. He could be 1-11 every year. They won't be able to buy that guy out for a while.
True. That's very true.
Here's a question from Lloyd earlier that we missed. Thoughts on Winery's moving his decision to the 14th?
It was rumored to be between anywhere from now to the 7th or the 8th, and now it's on the 14th. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think he's trying to probably get his ducks in a row. He might be doing some sort of ceremony. Some players like to go, set up at their high school gym or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if that works out. That's how they're getting it all set up. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's an OU Missouri battle. I don't think Oregon's really in it. Tennessee's not really in it. I didn't, for the longest time I thought Tennessee was going to be the biggest player, and then Georgia kind of came in, and then it seemed like those two would be bigger players, and then now it seems to be OU Missouri. And Oklahoma's lost to Missouri before, with Luther Burden. Granted, that's with the previous staff. I don't think Oklahoma loses on Winery, but obviously definitely a little nervous. But I think Oklahoma's going to be all right. And shout out to Stink Ass Cat, $20.
Stink Ass Cat is the man. He's always here, just killing it for us. Stink Ass Cat, we appreciate you. We should make a T-shirt that just says Stink Ass Cat is the guy.
Things that don't suck. Stink Ass Cat.
Stink Ass Cat. Yeah, that would be a fucking sick shirt. I think Winery is still a Sooner too. Bro, we talked about it Saturday night. At watching the UFC fights. I think we can survive Oregon. I think we can. Yeah, I think we beat out Missouri. We got to keep that Lee Summit North pipeline coming to Norman.
There's just too many things pointing towards Oklahoma.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm pretty sure it's been noted pretty well. They're gonna do this. Even if it wasn't noted, we all know he's the number one player in the country on a couple of sites. I think he's at least top 5 on all of them. He's going to have a televised or streamed commitment. This isn't just going to be a picture and a quick video that he posts on Twitter. He's going to have everyone, all eyes are going to be on him. So probably just needs the logistics behind trying to get all of that together, a camera crew. If it's anything like Taylor Tatum's, where you have a little bit of a desk where with different commentators and him answering questions, that takes some coordinating that the school and the people will have to take care of. So at this point, I think it's more so if there's going to be a production, they need time to set that up rather than they need more time to think about it. Because if you listen to Thune and Drum, I guess mainly Thune in this recruitment, he's talked about it multiple times. They're all tired of this recruiting process. None of them want to do it, him or his family. They just want to get this over with. So extending the timeline doesn't, those two things don't match. It's got to be more so they're trying to get family flown in, get everything set up for whatever production's about to happen, because it's the best defensive lineman in the country is about to make a decision, and that always gets eyes drawn to it.
Yeah. Now, where I will start to become a little concerned is if then another date gets, keeps getting pushed back, and and not to say that Oklahoma would ultimately lose that, because it just would remind me to Peyton Bowen, where it's okay, I think he's gonna commit on this day, and then it's oh no, another 3 weeks, another 2 weeks, another 4, and it just became a snowball effect. I agree with you, Jose. I don't think that this is really going to turn into that. And I think he's going to make his decision here on the 14th. So we're less than 2 weeks out, and that's all you can ask for. David Stone's at the end of this month. You've got Winery here in a couple of weeks. August could be massive for the 2024 class, and it can also be great for the 2025 class, because this 2025 class is starting to roll as well. And it's this is what we've been waiting for with the 24 class. We were hoping this would happen, but this is what happens when a staff's been there now for a year plus, and being able to really recruit kids 2 and 3 classes ahead.
I just want to chime in real quick on the Peyton Bowen recruitment. I don't know why you guys like to talk about it so much. That recruitment was relatively stress-free. It was pretty fun. It's probably the most fun recruiting process we followed since we started the show. So I think all of them should be like that, or like David Stone's. These are the most fun ones to follow.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I agree.
Those, yeah.
Yeah.
They are the most fun ones to follow. They are stressful, but it's like watching. And I think we agree on this now, Brandon. You'd much rather see your team make it all the way to the end, and if they lose, they lose. It's better than not being in the competition at all.
Yeah, like I can't imagine getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and losing, especially in Game 7, battling back from 3-0 deficit and then not winning on your home floor. That would probably suck. I don't know anybody that has experienced that, but that probably would suck. It is more fun to get to the dance. I agree.
Yeah, someone also that might have had that happen to maybe say a year ago. Yeah, I don't know anyone about that either.
Here's another question, and then we can talk about the 25 class because I do agree it seems like that one's picking up a lot of steam. The A&M sucks this year, and we have a great one. Could David Hicks be a real possibility?
I like to think so. Him and maybe even with Levius Overton as guys that I know Overton was once committed for sure to Oklahoma. I think David Hicks was probably silently committed and didn't go our way at the end, but eventually those dudes are going to flood out of there. And, they probably got a huge NIL deal and a huge whatever else to commit there in the first place, but they have a lot of really, really highly touted, highly ranked defensive linemen, and only 4 of them can play at once. Even in a rotation system, I think a lot of those guys don't want to be rotational players as much as they might have to be at A&M with the way it currently lines up. So I think when A&M sucks again, because Brum, you're right, they're a train wreck, and I don't think that's ever going to change. So whenever they suck again, I think both those guys or one of them could end up coming back.
Yeah, I don't know about this year, with Hicks just being there as a freshman. Part of me doesn't think so. And then also, if he doesn't transfer out after this year and Oklahoma lands both Stone, Winery, and potentially a Nigel Smith, Okoye. Okoye is kind of a toss-up. Wyatt Gilmore. Oklahoma's defensive line starts to look a lot more competitive, and it might start to somewhat deter, mass quantities of players coming to play at Oklahoma because it's going to be so deep, and it's not going to be immediate playing time that Oklahoma's been able to sell in these last 2 recruiting cycles, and that's a good thing if you're an Oklahoma fan, of course. I mean, you want the freshmen to be freshmen, and the only maybe a handful or a couple contribute, because that means your seniors and juniors and sophomores are playing at an extremely high level, and you don't have to resort to freshmen.
Yeah, I think regardless of how the outcome of this season, I don't think that they're really interested in David Hicks at this point. Like, he'll have to be the one. Someone in his circle would have to reach out and be like, hey, I'm leaving and I'd like to be here. I don't think the staff is really going to make that much of an effort after how things went down. And I mean, they tried to flip him at the end again, but it didn't work out. And at this point, that's when you can kind of say, I think more realistically say it's not going to be a fit because of, for whatever reason he picked A&M, and we can all speculate, but he's there now, and he went back on his word after being silently committed. I don't think the family might have not been receptive in him flipping to Oklahoma. I don't really see it being a big real possibility, nor would I expect the coaches to really go after him that much. Especially like you said, Brum, you do land this 24 class, you've got plenty of talent. You don't need David Hicks in 2 years if you've got if the talent develops as you expect it to be. And yeah, Brownlow Dindy was the guy that was committed, Bunnett, LT. Yeah. That one would be interesting because he didn't play much last year, and this staff wasn't the one recruiting him. So that one could be I could see that one being more realistic than DJ at this point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, part of the reason why he went to A&M was because he saw himself in another position, but Oklahoma only saw him in one type deal. The new staff that came in, and that was a deal breaker. And there might be a reason why Oklahoma saw him at the position that they did, and and he just didn't agree. Maybe after a couple years at A&M, might realize that, hey, maybe Oklahoma's right. Let's kick the tires again.
Possibly.
I think we'd all be excited for that, because I don't really think there's any hard feelings with previous staff leaving, and then at the end of the day we say you commit to the school, but in reality you commit to the coaches, and because you're going to spend the most time with those positional coaches.
Yup. All right. Well, let's talk about the 25 class, because you kind of alluded to it, but it really seems to be picking up a lot of steam. You have how many guys in that class right now? 3, right? And Kevin Sperry, Grayson Harris, and Kamari Moore.
And then Elijah Thomas.
Oh, and Elijah Thomas. My bad. 4. I knew I was missing one. Who we haven't talked about, but that dude is very good. Top 150 player right now in the 25 class. So early rankings. As long as he keeps progressing and getting better, a guy that you could easily see in the top 100, maybe even higher. It'll be fun to watch. Oklahoma recruits are, clearly staying at home now, or doing better. Oklahoma's doing better at keeping guys in state. Then you've got a lot of other guys. The wide receiver situation is what's going to interest me the most with the 25 class, because you've got 6 in this class. You only got 1 in the last class, but you've got 2 committed already. Isaiah Mosey, another guy from Lee Summit North, is someone that is expected to be a Sooner when you look at all the crystal balls. And then another in-state kid is a high 4-star when you look at the rankings, and Jaden Nickens has been crystal balled twice over the last 48 hours.
He picked up I saw a futures cast and a crystal ball today on the old Bird app.
Yep.
Well, it's not the Bird app anymore,
Yeah,
I guess, but
yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, that'll be interesting. Will they take 4 in the next class after taking 6 in this class? Assuming they all sign, right? Like that's a huge flip in a room. And I guess it might be necessary if, some of the talent doesn't pan out, but that's a lot of kids coming from the high school ranks in 2 classes for one group.
And Brent Venables has always said he wants to do more recruiting out of high school than the transfer portal. Obviously, you have to do some transfer portal recruiting for spots here and there, but this is probably what he envisions, that ideally this is every position group where they're mainly getting their guys out of the high school ranks, and maybe bringing 1 or 2 transfer guys in, and that's about it. And probably a total of like 5, honestly, when you look at each class each year transfers. But I think Emmett Jones, which is hard to even wrap your mind around, that this guy has come in, put together the class in 24, and the way that 2025 is shaping up. I mean, that a group of 4 would be elite. It'd be one of the best receiver hauls in the country as far as the class goes. And we're only in August, and it's a year plus out. I mean, Oklahoma is looking strong, and it's critical that you get a quarterback like Sperry, who I think will rocket up in the ratings. You said that earlier, Jose, but getting him in to be the leader of this class for a year and a half before you even sign, it does wonders.
We're just getting ahead of we can't recruit again, like we talked about. We're just getting ahead of that for next year. We don't have to stress about it so much.
It's like July -330 for that recruiting class. And it's going to be fun when the real July comes around for the 2025 kids. But I mean, that is a big thing, right? When you look at recruiting classes that are really high up there and have been in the top 5 for a long time, like Michigan was the number 1 school for a few weeks, maybe even a couple months before Georgia took off. Georgia's also been getting commitments for this 24 class since like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. So you do have to get these kids early. And if we think back to this 2024 class, I think it was a year and a half ago is when about a year ago is when DJ Lagway committed. Or maybe it was early. No, it does seem about a year ago. DJ Lagway committed to Florida. So getting commits early isn't always going to show success when it comes to recruitment. But a guy like Kevin Sperry is clearly the guy when it comes to helping with peer-to-peer recruiting. I don't even think that Jackson Arnold did a lot, and I think we can all agree there. But Kevin Sperry, from the very moment that he committed, seems to have is already fully bought in and is making sure that the kids that go visit when he's there buy in just as much, if not more, than he is to being a Sooner.
Well, I think friend of the show Jackson Arnold was just as much. I mean, I think he was just as much of that guy. I think Sperry's just following suit there. I mean, when we had Jackson on, what was that? Almost 2 years ago at this point. He talked about the group chat that they had formed, like even before he committed, and then he was texting it every day, trying to get guys. I think Jackson Arnold did a shit ton to help with that 2023 class, and Sperry's just doing the same thing.
He is, and this class can be very special. It seems like Oklahoma's in a good spot with a lot of the higher end recruits. I mean, they just had Michael Fasuzi from Louisville, Texas, I believe, the 5-star offensive tackle, an absolute massive person on campus. So I think this 25 class can be extremely special. Now, I got a question for you guys, and this is college football talk. It's not totally Oklahoma related, but I gotta ask, what are your guys' thoughts on Colorado going to the Big 12 and the Pac-12, the future of the Pac-12? Is it finally going to dissolve? I'm just curious. I mean, I feel like we need to talk about this. There's a lot of moving parts. The fact that Colorado pulled the plug, to me, it just looks like, what is the Pac-12 going to do? I mean, they're talking about a media deal, potentially like exclusively streaming, and it's just that just doesn't. If you're Oregon, why would you ever want to be a part of that?
You don't. I mean, imagine being a Cal fan, having that awful of a football team, and now you have to subscribe to watch them, pay to watch them on the telly, to watch them get smacked, because you're not going to want to go to the stadium to watch them get smacked. It's just the Pac-12 is not in a good spot. It sucks for them, but yeah, I mean, you're right. I think if you're Oregon, you have to leave at some point. You can't. You're the only legitimate team in the conference after next season. Well, yeah, why would you stay?
Yeah, and I saw what the report I did see was like it's going to be on Apple. It would be like that's the platform that they're looking at to stream. So not only do they want to stream, which is probably a little too ahead of the time. I think there's still way too many people that are still have cable. You probably have the least. You're going after the least popular streaming service that's currently available to the world. Very few people actually have Apple TV, and if they do, it's like it came with their purchase of an Apple product. They didn't really have a choice. It was just like, here you go, you got it for 3 months.
Or they bought it to watch Ted Lasso.
But that's over. So go ahead and cancel it, unless you're a Pac-12 fan, I guess. But even still,
I think a better question, because Brum, I think we all think that the Pac-12 was doomed. Where eventually it's just a matter of time for them. The better question for you guys, if you were tasked with trying to save the Pac-12 / bring it back to, I don't even know if it was ever really dominant. I guess USC was pretty good in the early 2000s and stuff, and they had some good runs. But if you were tasked to make the Pac-12 elite with what's happening right now in the current college football landscape, how would you do it? Where would you start? Obviously trying to retain Oregon somehow. You tell them not to ever leave, and then what do you do?
You obviously keep all 9 teams that you've got now. Boise State, I'd add them. I would add SMU, and I would add San Diego State. So you would add Boise State because geographically that makes sense, and they're a competitive football program, and everyone has an idea of who Boise State is. SMU, you get a tie to the state of Texas for recruiting, and try to have a little presence, in one of the best states for college football. And then San Diego, you keep another connection, I guess you could say, because Cal and Stanford are there, but another connection to the state of California, who has some great football recruiting. You get to 12 teams. I mean, I think that's about as good as you're going to get as far as making it as best as possible. You're not going to be able to get any existing Power 5 school to come join your conference. I don't think.
I think you're right, but you would have to just full court press and see if you can change Notre Dame's mind and have them join the Pac-12. That would be the biggest. If you can tell them, like, hey, you keep your portion of your NBC, we'll just add on the rest of these teams, and we'll split the rest of the revenue share amongst these, other 10 schools or however many there would be at that point, because they need to get it in on a network. It seems like Fox and ESPN won't offer them what they want, and obviously, like, they're kind of locked in. Fox will be covering the Big Ten and ESPN the SEC. And Big 12, they need an end to a network. NBC with Notre Dame would be their end. That'd be a ton of money if when you have Notre Dame and Oregon play against each other. They might even be able to keep the Notre Dame USC game, which would keep that rivalry going for the Pac-12. I think that's really the only way they actually save the conference. And San Diego State isn't going to do anything to actually drive more viewers. SMU maybe, because they are a decent brand in Dallas. Boise State, like, have they been good recently?
What about North Dakota State?
That maybe, but even still, I don't know how much that actually saves a conference. You got to bring in a brand after you lost the two biggest brands in one of the biggest cities in the country.
I just, if I were Notre Dame, I would just look at it and be like, well, if we're going to join a conference, we're in the Big Ten. I mean, our biggest rival in USC is going to be joining this conference.
But they haven't. It's much easier to sell someone to be the guy than just one of the guys.
Yeah, I just think that the Big Ten would be able to offer way more money.
That's why they haven't joined, though, because they can't get the money that NBC is going to just give them if they stay independent. That's why the Pac-12, like, if you're the Pac-12 commissioner, you're just like, hey, Notre Dame, just be part of our schedule. Say you're a Pac-12 team, put that patch on your jersey, but you essentially keep your NBC revenue and help us get it in there for like 5 years or something, and then see if you can renegotiate. But I really don't think the Pac-12 is staying alive if they can't get a brand like Notre Dame.
No, I don't think so. And I think for the future of college football, I think it should be set up with 4 major conferences. It just makes sense whenever you look at it as far as, the top 4 seeds in a 12-team playoff format, the 4 conference champions, you are your top 4 teams. And I think adding, the Big 12 gobbling up Colorado, and hopefully, I hope that they get, I think it would be great for the Big 12 if they got Oregon. Like, if they could get Oregon and Washington and Arizona and do that, and I think the Big 12 would be set up to be around for a long time. And even Utah. I mean, I guess they don't even need necessarily Oregon. They just need to add a couple more schools. And I think the Big 12 is going to be highly competitive when you look at it. I mean, K-State's going to be solid. Colorado, depending on what you think of Deion Sanders, he's at least going to bring viewers and bring attention to him. And he did well at Jackson State. So I think it's made for this now. Are they going to be the best football conference to produce national champions in and out, every year? No, because it's only under the SEC and every so often the Big Ten. It's just the reality of what college football is. And that's why Oklahoma's obviously going to the SEC, is to go win a national championship.
I guess that's another question. Where do you think those Pac-12 schools go? To me, it seems pretty simple. Like, all those more southern states in the Pac-12, just head to the Big 12. And then Oregon, Washington, Oregon State, just go to the Big 10.
But the part of the problem is the education requirement with the Big 10. Oregon and Washington can get in. I don't think really any other school, I mean, Stanford could too, but I don't think Oregon State will be allowed in the Big Ten. You have so many requirements as far as researching and things like that. I think they're going to be left in the dark, and I think they're going to have to join them. I think they're going to have to go down a conference.
Who?
Damn.
Oregon State?
Maybe Oregon State might be able to slip in and go in the Big 12, but when you look at a school like a Cal, where is there for you to go? You're on the outside looking in. I just,
Well, if they can make, it's gonna sound weird, but if college football could have a little bit of a European soccer where you can get relegated or promoted, you would kind of get rid of some of those shitty teams. Like Kansas probably wouldn't be a Division One school, but you'd bring in a decent team that did, like a North Dakota State, who has won like every single championship in their conference or in their division of football for years. Like they'd be part of D1 and be competing for a national championship if they sustain their success. And it would also probably make the fans more of those smaller schools get more into it, because then if their team is decent, they have a chance to go play next season in a place like the Big Ten, where they're going to watch their team play Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State. Like that, I think that would be pretty fun.
it would be. It definitely would be. It would definitely be, more competitive. Someone also just asked, where's Florida State going? Mike Happy's asking, where's Florida State going? And I mean, there's rumors and talks about Clemson and Florida State. Geographically, it makes sense for them to be in the SEC. But the way that ACC TV deal is set up, I don't really think any school is going anywhere. Just, they signed it through, what was it, 2035? I know there's rumors and things like that. And granted, I mean, someone can open up their wallet and make it work. Whenever you get that kind of long commitment, it's going to take a boatload of money. And I just don't know if they've got it. If I were to pick, the Big Ten would probably let them in before the SEC would. But I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. So,
Brandon?
Let's just talk some Sooner Boomer stuff, guys.
oh, you
Oh, now you want to focus on Oklahoma.
Fuck all these other conferences and schools. It's going to be the SEC versus the Big Ten anyway. This is all just a waste of time.
It's not, though.
Those are the only schools that are going to be winning titles. Clemson is the only school outside of those two conferences down the road that can win.
Even still, can they?
They're the only one that I think is going to be competitive outside of those two conferences.
Yeah. Now, I did see another question way back, and the question was, if there was one commit that you could steal from another school right now and place them in Oklahoma's recruiting class, who would it be and why? Jose? Brandon?
What's the question at hand?
We had a question earlier. What commit that's committed elsewhere, would you, if you had the ability to steal them and put them in the Oklahoma's class, who would it be and why?
Peyton Pierce.
Peyton Pierce.
Because we should have had him. He's really good. He's going to be good. I think he would have fit really, really, really well into Brent Venables' system. He's a really good linebacker. Brent Venables loves linebackers. That's the guy we missed out on. I think we screwed up on. Peyton Pierce.
For me, it's Sammy Brown.
Sammy Brown.
Yeah,
Same
Brown.
thing. Linebacker.
Yeah, just, the number one linebacker in the class. Maybe if Brent Venables was at Oklahoma a year earlier, Sammy might have been an Oklahoma Sooner. Extremely talented guy.
That's a good question. I'm trying to think someone that Oklahoma wasn't recruiting, because I think both of those are the best answers because of how the linebacker class is looking. Obviously, you'd like to have a guy like Peyton Pierce or Sammy Brown alongside James Nesta. But I'm trying to think of someone that OU just maybe didn't really have a chance on. He's not in a class right now, but it seems like he'll be a Buckeye. Edric Houston from Georgia. He would have been nice to been power to that power line graphic. I guess someone that we did recruit and lost out on was Jonah Ajone, friend of the show. He would have been nice to have part of the power line. Bryant Wesco. I'm basically just hashing. We're going back to saying, look at who we lost. I'm trying to think of someone that we didn't even have, like we were, I guess, weren't really in for.
What about a guy like Kobe Black, who's probably not going to commit to Oklahoma? He would have been nice to have. I think he's going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah. Well, because like my first thought when I saw the question earlier was Dylan Raiola. Obviously, he's a number one quarterback, the number one player on some platforms. But we don't need a quarterback in this class, like that talented of a quarterback in this class. Justin Williams, that would have been a nice one to have. Number one linebacker in the class, number two linebacker in the class behind Sammy Brown. I don't think Oklahoma's really ever in that recruitment.
True. So, no, I mean, it's obviously there are recruits that you want in every class that Oklahoma ultimately doesn't land, but the way that this class is lining up and what it's going to be with Williams Winery, hopefully, and David Stone, you've already got Taylor Tatum, a 5-star running back, and could have Dominic McKinley also, be that guy and join Oklahoma. This class is looking and will shape up to be one of the better classes that Oklahoma's had in recent memory.
Like we talked about, it's going to be the class that 2 or 3 years down the road, when we're playing very, very high level in the SEC, beating some really good teams, it's the class that really, really started it all. You'll have some guys from 2023, I think, making big plays too, but like the 2024 class is going to be the one that stays around the longest and is the start to to our success in the SEC, I think.
Definitely. So, well, do we take any last second questions, or do you guys have any final thoughts or anything about the stream? Sammy Brown. Definitely some Joseph Jone love too, and Peyton Pierce. So, but I think that's all I've got. If you guys have anything else? Jose, you're muted.
That was a good time. There we go.
It's always a good time on these lives. Yeah. It's the best part of the week.
Yep. I remember waking up this morning. I was like, "Oh, it's Tuesday. That means it's a live stream night."
Do you guys see any of this Xavier Robinson tweet? Wow, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. What he's hinting at here.
No, I have not. I have not seen it.
Jaden Nickens. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I did, but I think it's just. I don't think it's as big as it's being made out to be. Maybe Jaden Nickens.
Yeah, well, Jaden Nickens, he tweeted that August 1st was going to be a big day. So, Hose, you texted us early. Maybe there was speculation or possibility he would commit. That hasn't happened. Doesn't look like it's going to happen on August 1. Mm-hmm. But maybe he was just talking about video games or something.
Well, today is the first day that coaches can reach out to 2025. It's dead period for 2024, but it's like the beginning for 2025 kids. So that might be it. Here's the last question for today. So 4 starters were named today in Media Day. Tyler Guyton at right tackle, Walter Rouse at left tackle, Cade Mettauer right guard, and Andrew Raymond center. Who is the left guard?
Camp competition.
That was what was listed. Camp competition. I'm gonna go with Savion Byrd.
That was the first player that came to my mind. Now, of course, I want to come up with someone else. I do agree with you. I think Savion Byrd is the natural, would be that guy. Unfortunately, with the way everything is, I mean, could a Caleb Schaefer push? I mean, he played guard. He's a large human. I think it's between Savion Byrd and Schaefer for camp competition.
Yeah, I mean those are the only answers really. That's what the chat's saying. That's what you're saying. I'm going with it. Well, let's go Savion Byrd. He's Savion Byrd. He's a large human.
Nate Anderson would also be, I think, a good answer. He's been on campus for a while now. Coach did shout him out today during his press conference. Venables did. Said he felt like he needed to pick it up like mentally and get a little bit more confident out there. So if he can pick up that confidence, because he said his everything measurable is right up there with those guys in the first group. So we'll see.
Definitely.
All right, fantastic stream, fellas. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, comment, turn on the notification bell, because this is very consistent on Tuesdays. Sometimes we post a little bit more sporadically throughout the week, so you don't want to miss the videos. All right, anything else you guys want to add?
Mohawk and no beard.
Nope. All right, well, we'll see you next week.